Hello, everyone, and this is the Anime Normies podcast. I'm Anthony,
And I'm Anna.
and this is our second episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about our first animes,
Our first time.
our first time. And I'll start off by saying my first anime that I've ever watched was, just like everyone else my age, I'm in my 30s, it's Pokemon. Old school Pokemon back in the 90s. I think I was like 9 or 8 years old. And because this is our episode talking about our first anime and mine being Pokemon, I decided to wear my Pokemon shirt. And I'm going to show everyone here. In 2023, Ash Ketchum finally became the Pokemon champion after 23 years. When I watched the show, I thought it was amazing. I thought, catching Pokemon and making them fight each other was just like the best thing ever. Now looking back, that's it seems pretty unethical, but it's still a relevant show. One of the most popular shows ever. Makes a lot of money. If people didn't enjoy Pokemon, it wouldn't be as relevant as it is today.
I feel like a lot of people's first anime is Pokemon. It's a classic. And fun fact, it was actually the last song that we played at our wedding.
And everyone loved it.
I thought it was cool because when we gave the DJ our song list, he was like, whoa, like I've been DJing a long time and this has never been a song request. I love that.
Yeah. He probably thought we were a little weird though, because, and this is a little sidetrack since we're talking about our wedding. Our walkout song at the beginning of the reception was actually a JJK song. It was the outro to the first season of JJK, which is also a bop. Very easy to dance to. I thought it was perfect for a walkout.
So many people were like, wow, what a cool, fun song. Like, what is this? Oh, it's from an anime we watched.
So anyway, funny enough, it's still a relevant show, and it's still a lot of people's first anime for the younger generation. Pokemon is special because it transcends time, just like Mickey Mouse or Star Wars.
I like Pokemon. I watched it as a kid as well, but then we also I started rewatching it again maybe like a year or two ago, and I was astonished by how much you remembered from the show. Like very, very little details. Like the first 1 second of the episode would play and you'd be like, oh, this is the episode where they do this and that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been like 15 years since you've seen this.
It was like it clicked. It's such a core memory for me. It's like when you smell like a familiar smell and all these memories come back. That's what Pokemon was when you were rewatching it. Something clicked in my brain, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is when all the tentacles destroy the resort that they're trying to build. I remembered the first 12 episodes by heart, because as a kid, I watched those episodes over and over again, and we had VHS at the time, so I made my mom buy the Pokemon VHS tapes. And I would just rewatch that over and over again. There's no DVDs. I didn't watch it on YouTube or some bootleg anime website. We bought the VHSs, and I would just rewatch it over and over again. There's this Butterfree episode that always made me cry. Oh man, it brought back a lot of memories, and so Pokemon will always have a special place in my heart for sure.
I forgot how violently cute Pikachu is.
Yeah.
He's actually so cute. When you rewatch the show, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a cutie pie. There's this scene. It's like one of the first episodes with Pikachu and Caterpie. And Pikachu and Caterpie have their own conversation under the moonlight while everyone's asleep. And it is so cute and so precious. And it's so funny because this is a really long conversation.
Yeah, it's like a 2-minute Pokemon conversation.
But where he's just going Pika 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 and Caterpie's doing his thing, but it's 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but it's so cute.
And they're clearly having a heart to heart.
Yeah,
and even though they're not speaking English or Pokemon, you actually still know what they're saying. You have an idea of what they're talking about. And I think that's That's pretty impressive. That's pretty special.
I actually forgot that Ash had like a rival or like
Gary.
the first episode that it was like Gary. Oh gosh, hate Gary. I'm
Yeah.
like, who is Gary? I don't remember a Gary.
Oh no, Gary, unforgettable because Ash Ketchum, our main character, and Gary was like the first time I experienced or understood what a rivalry was. That was like my first rival. You know, in anime, there's always rivalries like Naruto, Sasuke, like the list goes on and on. Gary and Ash, for me, was the original rivalry. And you know what? To take
It's not a good one.
No, it is a good one. And to take it to another level is that Pokemon, and I can't talk about Pokemon without talking about the original Game Boy game. In Pokemon, Gary or Blue, he's called Blue in the Game Boy, is your rival. So he's like Ash's rival and he's my rival. And so on so many levels, that rivalry meant a lot to me because I fought countless battles against this guy on the Game Boy.
It's personal, actually.
It was. I'd watch him on the show, play against him in the video game. It was very hard, very strong Pokemon, and it made for some really good memories. He had a stacked team.
Also, that like theory where it was like Ash Ketchum's like actually dead, and this is just like his little memories playing out, like that like crazy fan theory. Rewatching the episode and like that scene where he gets blown up.
He gets fried.
Yeah, he gets fried. I was like, what a crazy fan theory.
Yeah.
And then I watched that episode and I'm like, oh my god, Ash Ketchum is dead. There's no way he survived that.
So for those of you who don't know this fan theory, and it's a pretty good one, there's a theory that Ash Ketchum is dead after like the first episode. And that
the first episode?
It is the first episode. And of course, see, I've memorized all the episodes. So yeah, if you don't know the theory is that Ash Ketchum dies, and then the whole entire series is just him dreaming about his adventures being a Pokemon master, and that's why he never ages. That's one support to the theory. And so he gets killed because Pikachu kills him. Because they're being chased by a bunch of sparrows, which is a bird Pokemon, and they're running away, and Pikachu tries to save them, but it actually backfires. So he like does this really powerful move, probably Thunder, and all the sparrows get zapped, and a lot of them run away. I'm sure some of them died too.
But it also like incinerates everything within like the next like 200 feet.
Ash gets zapped too.
And you pan over to Misty's bike, and her metal bike is literally
fried.
like molten.
And that's another thing that kind of supports this idea that Ash is actually dead, because if that metal bike can't withstand that voltage, then Ash can't either. So, and then the third, and I'm sure there's others that I can't think of right now, but the third reason why people think that he's dead is because you see this legendary bird, which you learn to be Ho-Oh, which is a legendary bird that I guess can make you be put into a dream state. So essentially this legendary bird, as it's flying over Ash's dead body, it puts Ash into this dream state as he's dying. And so
that's compelling.
It makes sense. It's a popular theory. I'm sure most of you have heard it already. But rewatching it as an adult, I agree with you. It's like, he might actually be dead. And going back to the whole Game Boy thing, I was obsessed with Pokemon Red. My brother had Pokemon Blue, and I played that game so much that I would like hallucinate the Game Boy music. Like sometimes my parents would be upset with me, take my Game Boy away, and the music would still be playing. And like I actually thought like my parents were playing the game without asking me, because because like I'll be like sitting bored because I don't have a phone to mess with. I don't have I'm not an iPad kid.
Convinced your parents are playing your game.
Yeah, because I heard
messing up your stats.
and I got really paranoid. I'm like, oh my god, I hope they don't like, I don't know, free my Pokemon or whatever. But the music would play. Like I was literally hallucinating. I was hearing the music play very clearly, very vividly, and I thought it was because I left the Game Boy on or my parents were playing. But I was just a crazy kid, and I had nothing else to think about at the time.
Pokemon's a really good show, and I
It is.
like the characters. I like Misty because she's just a woman scorned, trying to get her bike back. I mean, you gotta respect it.
Yeah, her persistence for getting the bike back, and I feel bad for her, honestly. Like all she wants is her bike, and any normal person would have done the same thing. If someone messed up my bike, yeah, I mean that's an expensive bike probably. As a teenager, even younger
you're right. If you melt my bike into lava, I'm gonna actually follow you across the country and remind you every single day that you owe me a new bike. That's totally logical.
But a friendship blossomed out of it, which is priceless and worth the bike probably. That's the whole point of this show. The friendships.
The friends we made along the way.
Yeah. But we all have that friend who owes us money, and that's just or not just money, but anything. And that's just what Ash is to Misty, just another friend who owes you something. But you love them either way. It's unconditional love, right?
And then Brock,
I
used to
Brock.
hate Brock as a kid because
Yeah.
I was like, ugh, what a loser, pervert.
But he's hilarious.
But yeah, as an adult, I'm like, he's just a guy looking for love.
Yeah, and it's your classic anime trope of, there's always that one character in every anime who's just a girl crazy. All they think about is women, and they, they just fawn over them, and that's like their personality. But Brock is actually a really good Pokemon trainer,
And he also he had to take care of his 100 siblings because his dad's a deadbeat.
Yeah.
So of course, when he gets out in the real world, he's like, you know what I want to do? I want to date. I want to talk to girls.
Yeah.
So he's like any teenage boy.
I just find it hilarious, and this is a running joke in the show. The nurses and the police officers, they all look the same, respectively. So like all the police officers look the same within the world, and all the nurses look the same in the whole world. And Brock, is the only one who can tell the difference between, the nurse from Pallet Town versus the nurse in Cerulean City, and I think that's hilarious because no one else can tell the difference.
You gotta respect him. He doesn't generalize women.
That's true.
He sees them as individuals.
Exactly, and that's probably why he can tell them apart.
Okay, so let's talk about who we would choose as our starter Pokemon. And who is just your favorite Pokemon in general.
You want to go first?
Okay, my starter Pokemon would be Squirtle. I love Squirtle. I just love how I don't know, he's just so cute. And when you first see him, he's got his little Squirtle sunglasses. And that's so cute. And I love how, in the end, they're, the town's, fire department. I thought that was,
the Squirtle Squad.
The Squirtle Squad. They're, it's just absolutely brilliant.
It's hilarious.
That's
I love it.
One of my favorite episodes.
I would agree. When I played the game, I picked Squirtle first, and fought a lot of battles with Squirtle. Eventually evolved up to Blastoise, and then beat the game several times with Blastoise, and then I restarted the game and picked Charmander. But yeah, Blastoise will always have a special place in my heart for sure. I mean, it's a turtle with guns coming out of its shell.
It's every teenage boy's dream.
Yeah, who doesn't think that's cool? They're little cannons I would be surprised if Blastoise doesn't actually like kill people on accident.
Fair. Okay, favorite Pokemon. This is such a cop-out answer, but my favorite Pokemon
Pikachu.
is Pikachu. I love Pikachu. He's so cute. Oh my gosh, rewatching the series, I was like, he was like almost too cute for me.
Yeah.
Pika Pika. Oh my gosh, he's so precious.
Can we acknowledge that they changed Pikachu? Because Pikachu back in the 90s, my Pikachu back in the 90s was a chonky mouse. He was big. He was round and thick. And nowadays, Pokemon is like slimmed down. He's like...
What's he look like now? I know, I gotta look it up.
Yeah, you gotta look it up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
stop.
He's a little chunky guy here.
He's a little... Oh my gosh, he's so chunky.
And so he's slimmed down here, you see.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. He walks everywhere.
No, he sits on Ash's
He
head.
walks sometimes. Oh my goodness, he's so cute.
I miss the chonky one.
Yeah, he's just this chunky little mouse, and I just love that he's not like the other Pokemon. He doesn't want to be in the ball. He wants to be like free.
He doesn't want to evolve.
Yeah, he doesn't want to evolve. Like, he's his own guy. Okay, who's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon, I don't know, probably Blastoise. Blastoise was like such a good Pokemon, solid, reliable, always won me the fight when the rest of the team failed. What's your first anime?
So the first anime that I watched was, well, it was probably either Pokemon or like Dragon Ball or Gundam. But the first anime that I actually watched and was really into and like actually regularly watched was Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, classic. I love that show.
I grew up without like cable, so the options were actually quite limited, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Just happened to be on one of the 10 channels that I had out in the boonies, and I watched it every single day after school. I was obsessed. Loved Yu-Gi-Oh! Made my mom buy the cards, like made my neighbor play the game with me. We both loved Yu-Gi-Oh! It was, like, I loved it so much. And I had not watched it in, oh my gosh, like 20 years. Easy.
Yeah, 15, 20 years.
Easy 20 years. And recently revisited it just to like, because I forgot, honestly. Besides like the premise of the game, I forgot what the show was about. And rewatching it, I was like, this is goofy.
It's absurd and it's crazy. It's corny. It's so far-fetched. But yeah, rewatching shows that were meant for kids, just in general, not just anime, but in general, just watching old shows from kids, it's just like, you watch it from a different set of eyes, and it's completely different.
I think as a kid, I was like, yes, like the game of dueling monsters is a priority. It comes first. And then watching it as an adult, I'm like, wow, it is really not that serious.
It is really crazy. You remember that first episode?
The first episode is bonkers. Like,
absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane. Like, right off the bat, Kaiba is crazy. Like, assaults poor grandpa for a literal trading card. It's not that serious, Kaiba.
Well, to be fair, if you really think about it, this is so in the first episode, Yugi's grandpa challenges Kaiba, who's
no, that's not what happened.
Oh, what happened?
Kaiba is looking for a blue eyes white dragon, and so he shows up at Grandpa's game store, which, by the way, guess what the name of the game store is?
I don't remember.
It's Game. It just says Game on the building. Wow, good one, Grams.
You gotta hire a marketing team.
So, okay, so Yugi brings his friends over to the game store, right? They're like, hey, my grandpa has this like super rare, super crazy card. He actually like doesn't like bringing it out, but let me bring like me and all my friends over here and show.
Can we pause right there? Isn't that like every kid in elementary school? oh my dad, oh my grandpa, like they have like something super cool, but I'm not allowed to like tell you about it, or I'm not allowed to touch it. I'm not allowed to do anything about it. Everyone had an experience like that where some crazy family member has like this special item that they're not allowed to share.
Well, that's Yugi.
Or
So
it's a secret.
he brings all of his friends to the game shop. Grandpa, show my friends your really cool card. Grandpa's like, Yugi, this is a very expensive, very rare, very special card. Like, it's not for show and tell. Yugi's like, please. And so that's when he pulls it out. And that's when Kaiba shows up and is like, I'll trade you all these cards for your card. And he's like, no. And Kaiba's like, okay, well then how about I pay for it? And Grandpa's like, no. And Kaiba's like, well, this is serious. This is for real. I'm actually going to now physically assault you for this card. Could you imagine that? Like fighting?
Well, yeah, actually, sadly, yes, there are definitely like some teenagers out there who will beat the crap out of an adult.
Also, Kaiba is like CEO of like Kaiba Corporations, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, why are you going to high school?
He's like in high school, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised Kaiba's here because he's so busy running the corporation. But yet Kaiba has like all this time to come like fight Grandpa at the game store.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the later in the episode, Yugi and his friends find Yugi's grandpa like on the verge of death.
Yeah,
like,
so Kaiba gets his goons to literally abduct Grandpa and like forces Grandpa to duel. And Grandpa gets like messed up in the duel. Like he actually gets seriously beat up and loses, by the way. What happened to Heart of the Cards?
Yeah.
Grandpa loses. And the gang shows up to see Grandpa actually going into cardiac arrest on the street. And Grandpa's like, you gotta get in there, Yugi. You gotta beat Kaiba. But I have to go to the hospital. And all the friends are like, yeah, Yugi, you gotta go play the game. We'll take Grandpa to the hospital. Like, what? No, Yugi, take your grandpa to the hospital. Grandpa's like dying in the street. And he's like, Yugi, take my cards, the cards I just lost with.
Yeah.
This losing deck. You take these cards, and if you believe in them, you'll win.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this is absurd. What? Like, call the police, call an ambulance. Yugi, why are you... Yugi's like, yeah, you're right, Grandpa. I gotta go play this card game while you fight for your life.
Can we talk about how crazy that card game was, though? He essentially cheats. He like, so he's playing
Who?
Kaiba.
Yugi? How's he cheat?
You know, he puts his hands over the deck of cards and he's like, if I just believe in the deck of cards, it's gonna give me the cards that I need to win.
It's called believing in your cards.
Yeah, no, it's called cheating. It's called cheating because Yugi doesn't even play. He gets possessed by a demon pharaoh spirit.
He's not a demon.
It's a spirit, and he's clearly evil. Yeah, that's the definition of a demon. Anyway, Yugi is a fraud. Okay, he has this special pharaoh possess his body to play his card games, and that's how he wins. And then he manipulates the cards by believing in it, and that's how he wins.
I love this scene. This is still the first episode, and Yugi's actually losing the game against Kaiba, and he goes to pick up another card. And he's like, the deck senses my doubt, Yugi. Like, what?
Yeah.
The deck senses? Oh, gosh.
So you're telling me that the deck is going to give you crap cards.
So Yugi has to, like, meditate for a second, reevaluate. Oh, and then he remembers the tattoo on his hand that Taya drew for the symbol of friendship, like to remember that they're all in this together. Right before they took Grandpa to the hospital, by the way, she was like, "Let me draw this friend symbol on all of us, and then we can take Grandpa to the hospital." So yeah, he meditates, he remembers that he's got friends, and then he's like, okay, now I can draw a card because now it's
different.
It's a different card.
Now it's different.
I also forgot in the first episode, he literally collects Exodia, and
which is like statistically apparently unlikely.
I just didn't remember Exodia coming up like
Right away.
immediately
Yeah.
in the show. I thought that was something that I
First
saw
episodes
later.
go hard.
First episode, Exodia, and
Exodia.
Kaiba gets blown away.
Yeah. Doesn't Kaiba rip up a card?
Oh yeah, Kaiba. That's right. I forgot. He hunts down Grandpa
Yeah.
for the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then he rips it up. And his excuse was so that this card can never be played against me. Kaiba, put it in your deck. What are you talking about?
Sell it. I don't know. Don't rip it up like a brat.
Well, he said he didn't want the card to be used against him.
dumb.
Okay, put it in your deck and you
Yeah.
use it against people. Why are you ripping it up? And he uses 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in that episode later on. When you could have just added it to your deck. Why did you just rip it up?
A lot of things happen in that show.
Yeah.
Also, back to the demon possession. Can we talk about how Yugi gets like 5 inches taller when the demon pharaoh possesses his body?
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because I'm like, wow, now as an adult.
His voice is different too.
I'm like, he grows taller, his face gets mature, and his voice gets deeper. Like, don't you think his friends and like Kaiba would be like, yo, who's this guy? But
If my friend pulled up with this ancient talisman from Egypt and all of a sudden is speaking with a deeper voice, is now taller than me somehow, and is, just not, the innocent Yugi is just like this little beta, but then this different person, I would literally request for an exorcist. I would call up my local priest, a young one and an old one, and exorcise Yugi, because that would be scary as hell.
okay, but I looked it up because I was like, wow, that's like really crazy. How does like none of his friends comment on the fact that he like turns into another person? And it, from what I read, it was that it's only for the audience, and the actual characters in the show still just see Yugi as like normal.
Well, that's not as fun.
Yeah, and it's only for the audience to see like, okay, he is morphed into the pharaoh.
To make it more clear for the audience that he's different,
but
he's
his
possessed.
friends and Kaiba, they just see regular Yugi and they hear regular Yugi.
That's lame. I think in my own head canon, I'm just gonna say that he physically gets taller.
What is this idea that the pharaoh's a demon? What are you talking about? He's a good guy.
Okay,
He like saved the world.
this is a good segue into what Yu-Gi-Oh originally was before, the Yu-Gi-Oh that we know now. So, Yu-Gi-Oh as a story was actually pretty violent and I think geared more towards adults, maybe, I don't know. But the original Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's Yu-Gi-Oh Season 0, you can probably watch it, and you can read it too. But it wasn't really so much centered around the card game that we know and love. It was actually just like that pharaoh possessing Yugi's body to play these games called the Games of Darkness, and it could be anything. It could be the card game. There were some games that involved some knives. There was a whole list of games that this pharaoh would make Yugi's peers play, and so the grandpa. I think the original story is the grandpa gave this special Egyptian item to Yugi so that Yugi can like pass judgment on like bullies, which is absurd to me. And if you go back and look at the manga, there's like everyone has
What?
yeah, everyone like
Grandpa's a menace if that's the case.
I know it's unhinged, but yeah, Yugi's like very violent. There's like a lot of stabbing. There's a lot of, I think there's death. I think Yugi actually like kills people. I don't remember. It's very violent. It's a completely different story than the Yu-Gi-Oh that got popularized in the U.S. But
What? No, Yu-Gi-Oh is about the power of friendship.
That's what we're gonna tell
and believing
ourselves.
in the cards.
yeah, definitely.
No, that's what the show is about. Yu-Gi-Oh, it's about the heart of the cards and the power of friendship.
So I think what happened though is, after I think a couple chapters of the manga, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, shout out Kazuki Takahashi, who died trying to save people from drowning. He died like 2 years ago, I think. But he, at some point in the story, I think he decided on focusing more on the card game that we know in the Yu-Gi-Oh that we see here in America, because developing a card game from a TV show, that's where the money's at. Pokemon did it. A lot of franchises, if they can capitalize on a game, that's easy money. And
it worked.
It worked.
In 2009,
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh was the highest. It was in the Guinness World Record for the most sold trading card game.
Yeah, I had hundreds of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. My brother and I, you did. My brother used to do like local Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. And and they were fun. They were really cool cards. They looked great. And they were illustrated great. It was a fun game. It's a game that made a lot of sense. And people still play the game. Did you own the cards too, right?
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Okay.
That is where the money's at.
That is where the money's at.
Just rewinding, that's another thing I love about Pokemon, is that it's like one of the highest, it is the highest selling franchise in the world.
Yeah.
And I just love that the like highest selling franchise that's like making the most money is an anime. Like it literally breathes out Star Wars, Marvel, all like these heavy hitters.
Yeah.
You can't be a little boy with a dream.
Yeah, like I said, you gotta give props to Pokemon for being able to transcend time and to be as popular as it is. I mean, people are still selling and buying the trading cards, and they still make a lot of money. They're not like the Beanie Babies that like fell off. Like, these are still relevant collectible items that you can sell for thousands of dollars, which is really cool. And the game, they're still making games, and people are still buying it, even though it might be repetitive. It's still people still buy that stuff. It still works. Now, let's talk about the first anime that we watched together. This is the anime that I guess started on his journey to seriously watching anime. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I watched some shows as a kid and then kind of didn't for like a really long time.
Until she met me.
And then we started watching this anime during
COVID.
during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And this one really catapulted me back into anime as an adult, which is really funny because like this is like a crazy anime, so
Yeah.
can't believe it was like a gateway. But yeah, so our first anime together was Neon Genesis. Just one day I walked into the living room and he was just like watching this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, there's only like one TV. Me too.
Neon Genesis was always on my list, so I started watching Neon Genesis, and Anna just happened to be sitting on the couch at the same time, and it got to a point where she was invested in the story, I was invested in the story. We really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a big mech anime, robot anime, fighting off aliens, and every alien, every episode was different. And that was entertaining and fun. And then it got really weird towards the end.
It's a very interesting anime to come back to. Like, to like segue into anime.
From Yu-Gi-Oh! To Neon Genesis.
I went from watching Yu-Gi-Oh! To now I'm watching Neon Genesis. And at first, like, sitting down watching this show with you, I'm like, okay, this is like cool. Like, mech, robots, cool. They beat up aliens. Like,
straightforward story,
Very straightforward story. I'm like, yeah, I totally get behind this. It's the end of the world. I gotcha. And then you watch more, and I'm like, oh, this is like not a mech anime. I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, I know Neon Genesis has a cult following, and this is my hot take for the episode, but I do think Neon Genesis is a bit overrated. And I feel like people who say that Neon Genesis is their favorite anime or their the best anime ever, you're probably a really pretentious person, and you're probably one of those people that I don't want to be around for too long. Neon Genesis is just one thing. I'm sure you're pretentious about everything else, like IPAs or something. That's the kind of person that loves Neon Genesis because it's just the ending is so deep and complex, and it is. But yeah, I just don't like it when these fans think it's like the freaking Bible. Poor Shinji. I mean, he has an unloving father, and he's put in this situation. Mom's gone. He's put in this stressful situation where he essentially has to save the world every day.
Poor Shinji doesn't know what to do with himself, and then he's got some moments where I'm like, not poor Shinji. And I think we all know what I'm talking about.
If you don't understand the scene that we're talking about, just go watch the show. We won't go into details about it, but if you have seen it, then you know.
A very infamous scene in a hospital room.
I didn't see that coming.
And then the ending, I don't even know what happened in the ending, to be honest. And the fact that let's not forget that there was a lot of opinions about the fact that the show kind of didn't end in the ending, that the creator had to make a whole movie so that there was an ending. And so then because we watched the whole show, and then we watched the TV show ending, and I'm like, what is this? This is not an ending. This is just Shinji going crazy and then being okay. And then we find out there's a movie ending, and I'm like, okay, cool, nice. Now we're going to get a real ending.
We're going to get closure.
Now I see what happens. And then we watch this movie ending, and I'm like, never mind. This is not what I wanted. I don't know what's happening here.
Now, you can definitely go on YouTube, and there's plenty of explanations about the imagery and the symbolism of all these things, which, it's great, it's good. But I think at the time when we were watching it, we just wanted something more straightforward. The first half of the show was just so straightforward. I thought the ending of the show was going to be straightforward, and it really wasn't. It kind of took me off guard.
This show was beyond abstract.
Yeah.
It was really out there, really far out there towards the end.
But, the symbolism is great. It's good. I think it's executed, and I think if you don't like to be spoon-fed and you want to think about the show, then yeah, it's a good show. It's a great show. I would recommend it to every pretentious friend that I have. It's definitely not a show that I would recommend to most people, but
I would not recommend it as a first anime for anybody.
Oh, absolutely
ever.
not the first. Yeah, I would not recommend it as the first anime for anyone, unless you're pretentious and you like IPAs.
Unless you're kind of crazy.
Yeah, and you think you're better than everyone else, because that's the type of fan that Neon Genesis is people who think that they're just smarter and better than everyone else. And sure, okay,
I don't know.
Enjoy
maybe it was just beyond my simple mind, but
Same.
that was. That didn't make a lot of sense in the end.
But it wasn't for if it wasn't for Neon Genesis, we wouldn't get the honor that we got today.
Yeah, crazy enough, after I watched that, I was like, damn, give me some more. Let's watch more
what was
anime.
the anime after that you watched? I don't remember.
I think it was Hunter x Hunter.
Oh.
No, it was Seven Deadly Sins.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anime's for a different day. And that was episode 2 for Anime Normies podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok.
And find us on all of your regular podcast streaming services.
Download, rate, review.
Unless you have bad things to say, then don't review.
Constructive criticism is good, but don't be toxic about it.
I only want you to hype me up.
You can tear me down. That's fine. All right, that's it.